Stop making these mistakes. In this video, I'm going to identify 3 top mistakes that a lot of people make when they get into property, and in particular HMOs, without knowing exactly what they're doing. Mistake number 1. Going and buying a property because they've identified that there's a good demand for the property in that area, but then not checking whether they're allowed to create an HMO. And this comes back to the planning requirements and the licensing requirements for a particular area. And interestingly enough, when there's a really high demand for HMOs, in particular student towns, the council then decides that they've got a bit of a problem. There are too many HMOs springing up. So therefore they implement what's called an Article 4 directive, which stops the change of use from a house to small HMO. So from a C3 dwelling to a C4 small HMO. And I actually have seen it quite often where landlords just go buy a house, they think they can do it, and then later down the line they realise, actually no, I need to go for planning. So they then bought this house and they found they have to go for planning permission because they didn't check whether it passes the planning policy. They then have to either luckily find out that they do, or, which is more likely to happen, find out that they don't pass planning, and then they've now got this house which has now got no way of being an HMO. There are things that you can do to do it slightly differently, but their main strategy of HMO is now gone down the pan. Mistake number 2, buying an HMO in an Article 4 area without planning permission in place. Now, the first mistake was all about buying a house and trying to convert it. This is about buying an existing HMO. Now, you might think, well, if I buy an existing HMO in an Article 4 area, then that's okay, because it's got the historic use. But the interesting thing is that when you buy the house, you then have to apply for a new license because that's not transferable to you. Therefore, at that point, the licensing department can ask you, do you have planning permission? Unless you've got a piece of paper from the planning department which says you've got planning permission, then the answer to that question is no. So you would then at that point have to go to the council and effectively say, this is an HMO, it's been an HMO for 15 years, can you give me a certificate of lawful use, or a CLU? And at that point the council will say, yes, but I want to see all the evidence that it's been used consistently for at least 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, depending on what the council wants. In reality, they can ask you for 10 years worth of evidence, and that evidence could be tenancy agreements, it could be council tax records with multiple names on council tax bills, it could be affidavits from the existing tenants. But there's got to be overwhelming evidence that it's been used consistently and without a break in that period. And that's very hard to do, and the onus is on you, the owner of the property, to do it, not on the council to disprove it. So you've got to prove it. Otherwise, they'll turn around and say, no, there's not enough evidence, so therefore it's no longer an HMO, and what you thought you'd bought at probably a premium price is no longer usable as an HMO, so then you have to go and change strategy and maybe sell it at a loss, maybe run it as Airbnb, or all sorts of other things that you could do with it to try and save the deal, but your initial strategy of doing an HMO, again, has gone down the pan. Mistake number 3, trying to deal with HMO planning permissions themselves, so not using the right experts. And generally, when somebody who is an investor, they're buying a property and they want to go for planning permission to convert to an HMO, they think, yeah, I'll just do that myself, I'll put it in, or I'll work with an architect who does nice drawings. Maybe they've worked with the council before. But HMOs, specifically in Article 4 areas, or if you go for large HMOs, are very specialised part of planning. So if you've not dealt with it a lot or on a regular basis, then it's hard to know what to say and what to get right. We would always recommend using a planning consultant who has done HMOs before. Ideally, someone who's done HMOs in that location before. And there are many ways that you can find those good quality people, and one of them is through finding existing planning applications that have been approved for HMOs and then going and finding who has done them, whether that be an architect or a planning consultant. but not all experts are created equal. Just a reminder that you want someone who has dealt with HMOs previously, not someone who just can draw what they think an HMO should be. So those are the top 3 mistakes that I see people make when they buy a property and then start to deal with planning permissions in Article 4 areas. I hope that has been of value, and I hope that you don't go and make those mistakes. If you have or encountered anything like that, please do get in touch. We do have amazing experts that we may be able to put you in touch with to see whether we can try and help. In the meantime, please like this video if you found it good, and then don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.